All right, guys, I'm back. I know I've been gone this whole week, but I've been busy. It's time for like good reasons, I guess. You know, I had a bunch of stuff going on with work and such. Modded Star Wars, turned that into basically Battlefront 3, so that's cool. Got back into Sword Tour. You know, I gotta make a I gotta make a video on Sword Tour and a video on Night Raid. I get when I play that eventually. Yeah, I just had so much crap going on. I barely had time to do anything, even go to the gym or sleep. But yeah, we're here, and what the hell is even what the flippity McFlip is going on in China? I mean China. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I'm just thinking about the other stuff, the other videos I have to record regarding that topic. But what the McFlippity Juggernuggets is going on in India right now? What's going on, man?
India has deployed its indigenous
We're about to
aircraft
find
carrier
out. That's
INS
what.
Vikrant to the Arabian Sea.
According to defense sources, the Navy is steadily bolstering its presence across the
Cheers.
region. The Indian Navy declared, fueling the maritime might, no mission too distant, no sea too vast.
Indian Navy remains deployed at sea in a credible deterrent posture to respond decisively to any inimical action by Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorists.
As they should.
In the early morning hours of May 7th, 2025, not long after India launched its cross-border
May
strikes,
7th. This is like what? Not even a month ago. This is still fresh, hot off the pavement. You know. Or is it like June? Oh shit! It's already June. It's June 1st. So what was that like? Yeah, like not even a month ago.
something
Almost a month,
strange
yeah.
happened in Karachi. Nothing. No ships left the port. No Pakistani F-16s scrambled. No retaliation orders issued. Because while the world was watching the BrahMos missiles fly its first mission, the Indian Navy was already in position. Silent, mobile, and parked menacingly close, just outside
That was
Karachi
me, not you guys.
port. Pakistani vessels sat locked in their own harbor, surrounded by sonar shadows and radar ghosts, knowing full well that if they moved, they would be done. It wasn't a warning. It was the first use of the doctrine of cold start. And it worked.
Of cold start.
That morning, Pakistan's fleet found itself bottled up.
What is the doctrine of cold start? I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not really gonna like look it up or anything. But if any of you guys know what the doctrine of cold start is, let me know in the comments.
inside the choke point that is Karachi port, or trapped in coastal harbors. Commercial shipping stalled too. Karachi port, the nation's economic and naval lifeline, sat under a quiet, watchful siege. India hadn't fired a single missile at the Pakistanis. They didn't need to. The message was loud enough without the explosion.
Damn, so you're telling me India just like spiritual pressured them? Like they just like, Ginryu side Yamamoto, like All Might, just puffed out their chest, like really get in there, some Toji Fushiguro, stretching and shiza,
Unlike their opponents, the Indian military has been
Flexing their
steadfast
pecs.
in their respect for non-combatant life. We tested and refined tactics and procedures at sea during multiple weapons firings in the Arabian Sea within 96 hours of terrorist attack. The aim was to revalidate our
Within
crew,
96
armaments,
hours.
equipment, and platform readiness
Was that
to
like
deliver
4
various
days?
ordnance on selected targets
96 hours is
precisely,
4 days, right?
said Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod. The warning was simple. We're here, we're ready, and if you retaliate, you will
We're
lose
here
your
and we're
navy
square.
before breakfast. This was a textbook.
Dude, that's pretty big stick of him. You know what I'm saying? What do you say? Like before breakfast? Dude, there's a lot of stuff that I could do before breakfast. I mean, depending on what time I'm eating it. So, I mean, I don't know. Very vague with his words, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and it is the first meal of the day. So, that being said, I don't know, man. It's a pretty intensive promise that I'm pretty sure India could keep if they wanted to. I would be doo-dooing in my galoshes if I was Pakistan right now. A man said, dude, if you move even an inch, I will blow your shit up so fast you won't even be able to scratch a booger off the pavement.
Execution of India's cold start doctrine at sea. India didn't wait to mobilize or engage in weeks of dangerous back and forth escalations and warnings. By the time Indian missiles were flying in operation...
Well, it's like ridiculous to you. Like, why would you want to wait? I'm sick of like this mentality where you have to wait for something bad to happen to do something about it. Like, for instance, like oh man, I'm not gonna say it, dude. But like, bro, it's just like, I don't know, man. Why do we always have to wait for something bad to happen? Why don't we just take action first?
In Sindoor, the Navy had already closed the noose. The Navy's carrier battle groups, surface forces, submarines, and aviation assets were deployed at sea with full combat readiness. Surveillance drones and satellite feeds tracked every movement inside Pakistani waters, while Boeing P-8I patrol aircraft looped across the Arabian Sea, their radar nets sweeping for signs of life. The Arabian Sea had turned into a chessboard, and the Indian masters were playing a hyper-modern opening. The Pakistani foe?
Whoa, what kind of name is that? The Indian Masters? What the?
Didn't know it,
man.
but India had already had every square on the board covered. Karachi never stood a chance. But the operation didn't...
2 minutes. We're only 2 minutes into the video, and we're already at 6 minutes.
Start on May 7th.
God.
To get to the root of it, we need to travel back in time to the aftermath of the 2001 Indian Parliament attack, in which Lashkar...
2001 Indian Parliament attack? What was that? Good. So this was after 9/11? Okay.
Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists killed 9 people. Now, this video is definitely not advertiser friendly according to the YouTube algorithm. And this is why we need your help.
Oh man.
YouTube has a habit of restricting videos that talk about war, but this is the reality of the world we live in. So, if you can do us a big favor and hit that like and subscribe button down below, it helps out the video tremendously. We appreciate you. During the 2001 crisis, India mobilized every branch of its military, but it took 2 weeks to prepare. By the time the army was ready to strike, international pressure had mounted, and the opportunity had evaporated. In the years that followed, Indian defense planners began developing a new doctrine built on speed and forces that could be activated at a moment's notice. It became known as Cold Start. While the army developed integrated battle groups to strike across the border,
MP5.
the Indian Navy quietly reshaped its own doctrine to mirror that readiness at sea. The focus shifted to carrier group mobility, submarine stealth, and better real-time intelligence. By the time Narendra Modi's government began accelerating military mobilization, the Navy was already postured for rapid response, with BrahMos-equipped destroyers, stealth frigates, submarines, and the mighty Vikrant, all of them under the GSAT-7 Rukmini satellite, and all of them pieces of a maritime cold start. It was the culmination of years of preparation to strike quickly, contain escalation, and control the Indian Ocean battlespace. So, on April 22nd, 2025, when Pakistani terrorists opened fire on Hindu pilgrims in Pahalgam, Kashmir, killing over 30 and wounding dozens more.
And this is what happens when you just keep poking the bear, you know, when you just keep instigating somebody, they're gonna fight back, dude. And you might not like how they fight back.
The response wasn't delayed. According to survivors, the attackers separated the group, letting the Muslims go and executing the Hindus. Some killers got away over the border, like usual. But this time, India began preparing immediately, deliberately. Fighter jets went on alert, while missiles were readied. A naval task force shoved off into the Arabian Sea, and Operation Sindoor was underway. And by the early morning hours of May 7th, 36 heavily armed ships and the Indian Navy were parked outside of Karachi Port. Pinned in the harbors and shallow waters just off the coast, the Pakistani fleet could do nothing but watch, intensely wait. Neither side fired a shot during the 3-day siege, but that didn't stop the misinformation train. As the standoff continued, claims that the port had been attacked continuously popped up on Muslim social media. Bengali news channel ABP Ananda even aired a clip of an air...
Ah, yes, misinformation, man. We're in the era of misinformation. Fake news. You're fake news.
Airliner crash in Philadelphia, claiming that the airport had been hit. But in reality, the Indians had forced the Pakistani Navy into a corner and what could have become a battle stayed tense but safe until the May 10th ceasefire. But the propaganda didn't just cut one way. Indian media outlets like India Today, Aaj Tak, TV9 Bharatvash, ABP, and Z News declared that the Indian Navy had attacked the Karachi port too. However, those reports were contradicted by live reporting from Pakistani news and social media sources shortly after they were made. Also on May 11th, Indian Navy Vice Admiral A.N. Pramad said that Indian Navy warships would remain deployed in the northern Arabian Sea in a decisive and deterrent posture, with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi, at a time of our choosing. But he never mentioned that the Navy had carried out an attack. The reporting around the entire event on both sides? Ridiculous. What would anyone have to gain by fabricating a military strike on a port? I guess sympathy on one side and ratings on the other side, but I mean, that's the best I can come up with. And still, the entire thing is absurd. The Indian military showed incredible restraint, and it was a textbook example of how the Cold Start Doctrine is designed to work. That's the real story here. So let's get back to it. The fleet that India surrounded Karachi with was a collection of 36 high-tech warships optimized for multi-domain dominance. And at its core is the INS Vikrant, the crown jewel of an ultra...
Yeah, I was gonna say something about the ships earlier, but I didn't want to, keep pausing the video and being annoying. Like, I didn't really notice like the curve here. I noticed it like earlier in the video, but I don't know if I was like tweaking out or some shit. Like, I like this curve. Like, is that like on all battleships like this? To my knowledge, I thought they were just straight. I didn't know, because I figured it would be easier for like landing and takeoff if it was straight. I didn't know there was a curve. So what? Does that mean like when they come to land, they have to come through the other side, like from here? Like they gotta, if they're coming from the front side, they gotta go to the back, come around in here, or they just gotta come from the back side, period, or some shit, or some shiza. Cause like what? Can you imagine? You'd have to like go down at an angle here. If you went from the front side, because if you just went straight, you'd probably like smack this and then like crash or something, or you'd probably, I don't know, or even if you didn't hit this, you'll still be at a curve, so then you would have to still decline, and you have less runway to slow down.
Modern Navy.
I don't know. I'm
It's
probably
India's
thinking about
first
this too hard.
homegrown aircraft carrier, fully designed and built in the country under the
probably the
Atmanic
first
Bharat
thing that I said.
Initiative. President Modi's plan to produce all Indian defense equipment domestically rather than be a customer state like they'd always been in the past. It displaces around 45,000 tons, operates a ski jump stow bar system, and carries up to 30 aircraft, including MiG-29K fighter jets, Kamov Ka-31A.
So is that like a standard for the battleships though? Like the ski jump stow bar system, or is that like new? Like it's like exactly how I said. Like, is it actually like straight? But then like the recent ships have that stow bar stuff, or was it always stow barred? I'm confused now.
AEW helicopters,
Rapiola.
and Indian-made Haldruv utility choppers. The carrier runs on 4 gas turbines, which can push it to over 28 knots. INS Vikrant is defended by AK-630 close-in weapon systems, capable of unleashing 30mm rounds at high speed to intercept incoming missiles and aircraft. It also carries 64 Israeli Barak-1 surface-to-air missiles for short-range aerial threats and, like most naval ships, can also deploy chaff and flare countermeasures to confuse radar and heat-seeking weapons. Onboard sensors include 3D air surveillance radars and electronic warfare suites. Its real power, though, even beyond the fighter jets that launch from the deck, is that its combat systems are fully integrated with the Indian Navy's network-centric operations for the Indian Navy: Command, Control, Communications, and Intelligence, or NC3I. A battle network that integrates information from all the Indian Navy ships and planes, along with the GSAT-7 Rukmani, a geostationary military satellite launched in 2013, which keeps constant, unblinking watch on the entire Indian Ocean region. This makes the Vikrant
Like on
the
some
central
pod
node,
stuff.
launching strike missiles, coordinating fleet defense, and managing anti-submarine operations all at once. In a situation like Operation Sindoor, the carrier provided both offensive force and insurance to the rest of the fleet that the operation ran smoothly. Along with the INS Vikrant, India also deployed the INS Vikramaditra, its older, Russian-built Kiev-class aircraft carrier. The presence of both carriers illustrates the sheer scale of the operation and the heart of the Cold Start Doctrine, to hit the enemy hard with every asset available. Sailing alongside both carriers and plunged natively into the NC3I network, the Kolkata class marked a turning point in Indian naval design. Launched in 2006 as the first domestically built destroyer class, it combined heavy firepower with the capability for networked command systems, anticipating integration with future platforms like the Rukmini satellite and the Vikrant in the not-too-distant future. It is capable of launching BrahMos missiles, defending the fleet with advanced Barak 8 surface-to-air missiles, a joint venture between Israel and India, and engaging surface targets with a rapid-firing OTO Melara 76mm naval gun. Below the waterline, the Kolkata also has 533mm torpedo tubes and RBU 6000 rocket launchers for anti-sub warfare. Its radar and sonar are capable of tracking threats across air, surface, and subsurface domains. With over
I wonder how much money it costs to make one of these ships. Like just for that sonar. You already know that sonar alone is probably like at least $500,000.
7,400 tons of displacement, it was the first step in India's push towards a domestically produced and high-tech style of Navy warfare, built to network as well as to strike. Its successor, the Visakhapatnam class, was launched in 2015 and refined the same formula but with enhanced
That
stealth,
looks like a Star
better
Wars,
automation,
like,
and more
sea
indigenous
boat.
components. It is armed very similar to the Kolkata class. And then there was the INS Rajput. Probably sailing its final combat mission, the Rajput wasn't Indian built. It was
Why is it
Cold
final?
War steel, born in
Would
a
it probably be, like,
Soviet-Ukrainian
decommissioned or
shipyard
something?
and sold to India in 1980. 45 years later, it entered the Arabian Sea one last time, carrying BrahMos missiles where Styx once sat. India's frontline frigates include two key classes, the Shivalik class and the Talwar class. The Shivalik class, launched between 2004 and 2007, was India's first domestic stealth warship line, designed to produce radar and infrared signatures while still packing a devastating punch. These frigates are armed with either Barak 1 or 8 surface-to-air missiles, BrahMos or Club anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and 76mm naval guns, making them versatile across surface, air, and underwater threats. The Talwar class, launched in 2 batches between 2000 and 2011, was imported from Russia but customized for Indian use, including stealth shaping and Indian weapon systems. Talwar frigates field the older Russian Shtil missile or Barak 1 SAMs and Club missiles. They are known for their speed, reliability, and, with upgrades and modifications, strong integration with the rest of India's naval fleet. Both classes remain essential to fleet operations and are fully compatible with India's networked warfare systems. The future of India's frigate fleet lies with the Nilgiri class, a new generation of stealth warships built under Project 17A.
Dude, I'm not even gonna lie. I feel like he just read me like a whole battle catalog from like World of Warships or whatever that freaking battleship game is called. A battleship? Is that what it's called? I don't even know. Like, oh my god. It's like you just went like, oh, tank class, stealth bomber class, you know, speed class, assault class, healer
With
class.
natively integrated Barak 8 air defense and BrahMos missiles, these ships are designed from the ground up with top-notch Indian weapons. NC-3I
Keep hearing about these missiles, the BrahMos missiles. They must be some type of work, huh? What is it, made by Tony Stark? Are these the Stark missiles? Tony Stark missiles made by
activity
Stark
and
Industries.
stealth in mind. Under the Arabian Sea, Scorpin submarines, known in India as the Kalvari class, patrolled to keep the net around the Pakistani fleet tight. Built in partnership with France and launched between 2017 and 2023, these diesel-electric attack subs are designated for stealth, with low acoustic signatures and a hull designed to disappear into coastal waters while blending in with local traffic. Their torpedo tubes are dual use and fire domestically produced Varanastra heavyweight torpedoes, Exocet SM-39 anti-ship missiles, and they could even launch mines if desired.
Excuse me?
One thing they can't do, though, is launch missiles like the BrahMos. The submarine-launched BrahMos is simply too large for the Kalvari torpedo tube and requires a vertical launch
big boy
system built into the
missile.
hull, something the Kalvari doesn't have. That role will likely fall to India's future nuclear submarines, which are being developed now with the Project 75 Alpha program, although those boats probably won't be commissioned until the mid-2030s. Above them, Boeing P-81 Neptune aircraft ran continuous patrols. These long-range sub-hunters use magnetic anomaly detection, sonobuoys, and synthetic aperture radar to sweep the sea for movement. Like every other piece of equipment in the Indian Navy, they are also coordinated with satellites and drones as part of the NC-3I system to monitor Karachi's naval infrastructure, tracking the enemy, and watching them from above. Flying off the deck of the INS Vikrant, the MiG-29K brings sharp edges and old-school aggression to India's modern fleet. Originally designed in the Cold War, the platform was rebuilt for carrier life, reinforced for hard landings, and given wings that fold. It carries R-77 missiles, the Russian equivalent to the United States AIM-120 AMRAAM and the R-73, for closer engagements, along with precision-guided munitions and anti-ship missiles. And I'll be honest, this is my favorite part, because the MiG-29 is one of the most iconic planes ever put in the sky. There's a sort of menacing elegance to its shape, especially around the cockpit, that's always exciting me. Like a kid with a Lamborghini poster or Farrah Fawcett on his wall. It's beautiful. But what's really beautiful is how the operation went off without a single civilian casualty. That's the beauty of the cold start doctrine. Strike fast like a Lamborghini, hit hard like an MiG-29, and then leave smiling like Farrah Fawcett before your enemy can decide how to react.
They really just say like the light. We're not really just gonna gloss over like that Lightning McQueen line that he just said. He said, "You sting like a what is it? You race like a Cadillac, you move like a Cadillac, sting like a beetle, or sting like a bee."
Not just a missile strike for the sake of it, but to send the message that India doesn't need to escalate to win, because they know they shouldn't. This message wasn't just for Pakistan. India didn't launch Operation Sindoor in secret. They launched it for the entire world to see, and with the full force of a rapidly improving Indian military capability. Carrier groups trained and deployed in days, drones in the sky, satellites overhead, Indian missiles screaming across the border. And no apologies, because with the precision of the strikes, none were needed. When terrorists murder civilians, they don't require an apology. That's what puts the restraint of the Indian military in such stark contrast to their opponents. But at the same time, India is tired of being pushed around by terrorists, and the world watched a firm, final, but ultimately measured response. With missiles flying into terrorist camps and Pakistani's largest port in Karachi completely cut off, what did the Pakistani response consist of? At first, just more of the same. Drones, denials, and on May 8th, Pakistani's defense minister, Khwaja Asif, stated that the threat of nuclear war with India is clear and present. What was clear and present was the truth. Modi had called their bluff. The Indian Navy had surrounded Karachi. The Indian Air Force had flown deep into enemy airspace. Indian missiles had hit their targets, and the other side hadn't even made it off the runway. Then, on May 9th, 2025, the Pakistani army launched a series of retaliatory missile and drone strikes targeting Indian air bases in Punjab and Jammu, marking its official response to Operation Sindoor. The attack included both conventional missiles and swarms of over 600 drones, aiming to overwhelm Indian defenses. But Indian air defense is capable and layered. India's top-of-the-line Russian-supplied S-400 Triumph air defense system worked perfectly, successfully intercepting a nuclear-capable Shaheen missile, while domestic systems like the Akash and the Israeli Spider system took down hundreds of inbound threats. Indian-Israeli Barak 8 missiles on-board naval vessels also played a role in securing key coastal and airspace corridors. Nearly all the Pakistani projectiles and drones were intercepted before impact, with minimal damage reported on the ground, announcing the maturity and level of sophistication of India's multi-tiered air defense grid and the failure of Pakistan's attempt to regain initiative. It is the happiest day of my life seeing my baby work so accurately and beautifully in shooting down incoming enemy aerial targets. An elated Dr. Prahlada Ramarao, developer of the Akash, said following the attack. He said he had tears in his eyes when he saw it worked beyond expectations, engaging incoming targets effectively. The following day, on May 10th, 2025, less than 24 hours after Pakistan's missile and drone assault, India launched a second wave of precision strikes. But now the targets weren't terrorist camps. They were military assets deep inside Pakistani territory. Using a combination of air and ship-launched BrahMos missiles, along with other precision weapons, India struck airfields, radar sites, and weapon depots. The operation demonstrated not just reach, but self-control, again resulting in only military destruction with no civilian casualties, and again highlighting the difference in the approach to combat and the value of human life between the two sides. Unlike India, Pakistan was unable to defend itself and suffered damage at key sites. Even the Sheikh Zayed airport was hit, leading to condemnation from Pakistan and its allies. But the airport houses and supports military equipment and operations. So, under international law, it is a legitimate target, underscoring Pakistan's lack of commitment to protecting its own civilian infrastructure. For decades, India has lived under the shadow of Pakistani nuclear rhetoric. Every provocation from across the border came with the threat, spoken or unspoken, that if they
can't just cower down to that stuff, just because this guy, wants to wave the nuke flag and be like, hey, dude, I got nukes. Can't just, keep using that as like hey, dude, I'm gonna get away with whatever I want because I got nukes. Screw that noise, bro. Screw that noise. Let's see if you got the balls. No, I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want them to do it, but, screw that noise. We're gonna fight back.
They retaliate, they risk escalation to the point of no return. That's been Pakistan's play for years, to hide terroristic and internationally unacceptable behavior behind the threat of nuclear war. The Cold Start was designed to beat that game by being quick to act and precise. This wasn't like 2001, when the United States rallied half the world and declared war on jihadism and then fought for 20 years. This was the execution of smart doctrine. Limited military action, giving the enemy a quick, bloody nose, and then leaving the field. And it worked perfectly. And that puts India in a very different place than it has been. The same country that once absorbed blows and then entered into Islamist back-and-forth mind games now strikes fast and hard, leaving no question what consequences are when attacked.
Good.
The same country that once bought its weapons now builds them. No longer beholden to international backlash, India is free to hunt terrorism down precisely and swiftly. If you're watching this from the outside, whether you're in Beijing, Tehran, or Washington, Operation Sindoor should have caught your attention. Because in addition to displaying overwhelming military force and world-leading technology, the Indian military demonstrated a new pattern. That the new India isn't going to be bullied by bad neighbors and then be told not to react. And the navy that they've built and continue to develop is a key symbol of that. Hand in hand with Cold Start, India's modern naval posture is anchored in the larger national strategy of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India, the drive towards self-reliance in defense manufacturing. Under this doctrine, India is expanding domestic production of everything from destroyers and submarines to
Big props to India though, because it takes a lot to, you know, just go full fisting in, you know, not backing down. I like
missiles
that.
and
Respect
satellite
the mundo.
systems. And if Operation Sindoor is any indicator, it's working very well. India is building a navy capable of projection and defense in a part of the world with high stakes and no room for error. It's a call out to Beijing as much as it is to Karachi. Now, if you attack India, there will be a steep price to pay.
That was a great video, guys. Oh man. India. Oh man. India's really not backing down, huh? Like, they're just really hogging it. I respect that, man.
Tensions are running high
Alright,
between
that's
China
another
and India.
Concerns swirling about a mega energy project in China. The country recently approving a plan to construct the world's largest hydroelectric dam in southern Tibet. The construction site sits on an area that is prone to earthquakes.
So this river is shared by 3 countries, China, India and Bangladesh. All 3 depend on it, but China wants to control it. Beijing can cause droughts and floods with this dam.
India and China are fighting
it's her
a
again.
nasty
Let's
war,
go.
but not on a
See,
battlefield.
I saw you guys link.
This silent war is being fought
comment
for the
in
lifeline
my
of
last
humanity.
videos. What her
Water.
name was? Good luck.
China has nasty plans to
I
dry
already
up
forgot
one
what
of
her
India's
name was.
biggest lifelines, the Brahmaputra River. China is building infrastructure that could
Brahmaputra
seriously
River.
reduce the flow of one of the Brahmaputra. On the other hand, even India is pushing back with its own projects. But these moves are raising the risk of serious conflict. But how is water causing 2 of the biggest nuclear powers to fight? Once a wise man said that the future world wars will be fought over water. And this is what is happening
That's
in
a
the
fact.
world. It all began with China's water
That is
crisis
a fact,
because
a fact.
China is running out of water. China is home to 20% of the world's population, but has just 6% of global fresh water. Rivers like the Yellow River are shrinking. According to official Chinese data, over 400 out of 660 cities in China are already facing
God.
water shortages. And since the 1950s,
Crazy.
half of China's rivers have vanished. What makes things worse is the massive water imbalance between the North and the South. About 80% of China's water is in the South, but the North, which is packed with people and factories, is dry. In the northern region of Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, which is home to around 130 million people, water availability is shockingly
A lot
low,
of people.
less than 184 cubic meters per
Oh
person.
boy.
In fact, in the Hebei
Water
province,
droughts
it's just
everywhere,
under
huh?
100 cubic meters. To put that in perspective, anything below 500 is considered absolute scarcity. Across the country, nearly 60% of China's cities deal with water shortages during certain seasons. And over 100 cities face constant water scarcity.
I don't know, man. I feel like it's 2025, you know. I feel like there should be something that they could have done to combat this water drought thing.
This means millions of people in northern China don't have reliable access to water, which directly affects farming, industries, and everyday life.
I feel like that's
On top
their
of
own
that,
fault.
climate change is causing glaciers to shrink, and pollution has
Like, dude, like you've literally had like actual like centuries to fix that problem, dude.
made things worse. Rapid industrial growth has polluted many of China's rivers, lakes, and
focus too
underground
much on
water
sticking their
sources.
grubby little fingers in
By the
everybody's
2000s,
business
about
instead of,
70%
fixing their own
of rivers
problems
and
at home.
lakes were polluted. In fact, over 70% of China's population live in water-stressed areas, mainly in the north and northeast. The government has admitted that 11 out of 31 provinces already fall below the World Bank's benchmark for water scarcity. That's 1,500 cubic meters per person. If the situation doesn't improve, water shortages could slow down China's economy by as much as 6 to 7% of its GDP by 2050, especially by hurting farms and industries. Now,
It might not seem like a lot, but 6 to 7% is like a whole big chunk of that pie. Like in the grand scheme of things, like if you're just looking at a chart, it looks like a little bit, but in reality, that's like a whole lot of people getting affected.
Now, you guys know YouTube is not a fan of videos that are controversial, and wars are controversial topics. So if you can help us in our effort to cover news by hitting that like and subscribe button down below, it will really help us out tremendously. To deal with water challenges, China is creating new tensions with India. And this is where the Brahmaputra River comes into the picture. Both countries share several major rivers that start in the Tibetan Plateau and flow into India and further into countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan. One of the most important among these is the Brahmaputra River, known as Yarlung Tsangpo in Tibet. It originates in southwestern Tibet, flows through the Himalayas into Arunachal Pradesh, moves across Assam, and finally enters Bangladesh. The Brahmaputra has become a
So it
major
basically
flashpoint
connects a
in
lot of
late
shit.
2020, when China announced a massive hydropower dam project in Medong County, Tibet, close to India's border. This dam, which is part of China's 14th five-year plan, is expected to be the world's largest, even bigger than the Three Gorges Dam. China says it will generate up to 60 gigawatts of clean energy
Three
and support the country's
Gorges
goal to
Dam.
become carbon neutral
Sounds
by
like a mission
2060.
on Left 4 Dead.
But these reasons are just a mask, because behind it, China has a far more sinister motive behind the dam. And India sees this as a big concern. Some of the obvious reasons are environmental risks and how this dam could change the flow of water, affect sediment levels, and disturb the
Dude, it already has. Like, we literally covered this in my last video. Not my last video, but in one of my last videos with like the whole dams. Like, China literally, that's what I mean. They literally just love sticking their grubby little fingers in everybody's business. Like, they literally, oh man, they literally screwed up all the locals' livestock. They had to like move out. They flooded a bunch of their homes because of the stupid dam. Oh man, and they promised that their GDP would be going up and that their economy would go, but it actually like screwed everything
ecosystem
up.
downstream.
Even
But on the other
more.
side, there's a strategic
It just
angle.
made their own people
Controlling
turn
the
against
river
the
gives China
government. Seems like
leverage
it actually
over
did
India.
nothing for them.
Experts warn that China could
Didn't
reduce
even
the
grant
river's
them
flow
jobs
during
because most of the people taking care of the dam were, you know, CCP brought
dry
type of
seasons
thing.
by storing water, or suddenly release it during sensitive times, causing floods. This could act as a water weapon. China's upstream control means it can unleash floods or cut off water to India anytime it chooses. And India didn't take this lightly. In January of 2025, India's External Affairs Ministry said that it had shared its concerns.
Yeah, like me personally, I don't know if I'd want China to have the power, you know, to have control of the power. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I don't know if I would, like me personally, I don't know if I would trust China to control the dam of like basically my entire country or like city. Like if the day came where, you know, you became enemies with this state and they don't like you anymore, or you're at war with them, they could just flood your whole nation if they wanted to, or flood that whole city or whatever it is, that country. Well, I don't know, whatever you
with
want to
China
say.
and promised to protect
It's like
its
a
interests. Since there's no
massive
water
risk,
sharing
or
treaty between
drought
these
you
two
guys out, you
countries,
know, the opposite
India worries it
starve
might
you
not be
guys.
informed about future Chinese
No
projects.
water.
A clear example
Nada.
was during the 2017
Zilch.
Doklam standoff,
Zilch.
when China suddenly stopped giving India hydrological data on the Brahmaputra. The same year, Assam suffered severe floods. Many in India saw this as a pressure tactic, proof that China is willing to politicize water during tensions. Everyone thought India had no answer. But behind the scenes, it was quietly building its
how do you
defenses against
politicize
China's
water?
water weapon. In 2021, India announced the Siang Upper Basin Multi-Purpose Project in Arunachal Pradesh, a huge dam plan aimed at countering China's moves. This project, expected to produce 11,000 megawatts of power, would store up to 9 billion cubic meters of water. Indian officials believe this dam can help regulate water flow, holding back water when China reduces supply and releasing it during dry periods. It would also act as a buffer in case China suddenly releases a large volume of water. Strategically, it sends a clear message. India won't let China control the river without resistance. But experts warn that building 2 megadams in the fragile, earthquake-prone Himalayan region could be dangerous for the millions living downstream. States like Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and even Bangladesh could face major risks like dam-induced floods or failures. China, having control over the first 1,625 kilometers or 1,010 miles stretch of the Brahmaputra in Tibet, holds a geographical advantage. But there's an ongoing debate about how much water actually comes from the Chinese side. Indian estimates say that 60 to 70% of the Brahmaputra's water is generated within India itself, while only the rest comes from Tibet. India's Central Water Commission found that about 40% of the river's water originates in Tibet. On the other hand, China claims that only about 14% comes from its side, though this figure is questioned by many experts. What's clear is that while most of the monsoon flow comes from Indian and Bhutanese tributaries, the Tibetan stretch provides crucial water during the dry winter and spring seasons. It also brings heavy sediments from the mountains, which are vital for farming downstream. So even if China can't stop the river completely, what it does upstream matters a lot. China has been rapidly building dams on the upper stretches of the Brahmaputra River. While Beijing claims these projects are part of a domestic push for renewable energy, India sees them as a serious security concern. The first major project is the Zangmu Dam, completed in 2015. This concrete gravity dam stands 116 meters tall and has a relatively small active storage capacity at around 86.6 million cubic meters. Despite its size, it generates around 2.5 billion kilowatt hours of electricity each year using 6 turbine units. What makes Zangmu unique is its high altitude location. At nearly 3,300 meters in the Himalayas, it's one of the highest hydropower stations in the world. More importantly, Zangmu marked the beginning of China's cascade dam strategy on the Brahmaputra. Indian experts have pointed out that it could be used to control seasonal water flows or be upgraded later for greater storage. The Jiacha Dam, completed in 2020, is China's second major dam on the Brahmaputra. Jiacha, along with the Zangmu, supplies power to Tibet's grid and helps reduce electricity shortages in places like Lhasa. The two dams are located relatively close to each other, making it possible to operate them together and potentially control the river flows more effectively. While Chinese media insists these projects are only for power and flood control, India remains wary about their dual-use potential. Then there's the Dagu and Sheshu dams, which were announced in 2013 along with Jiacha. If both are completed, they would form a chain of 4 major dams: Zangmu, Jiacha, Dagu, and Sheshu on the Tibetan segment of the Brahmaputra. Individually, these dams may seem moderate in scale, but together, they could give China significant control over river flow. Indian experts worry that China could use this network to hold back water during dry seasons, or release large volumes all at once, potentially causing floods. But the most alarming announcement came in 2024. A project so massive, no one could have imagined it. It was the proposed Medog Megadam near the Grand Bend of the Brahmaputra, just before it enters India. In December of 2024, China officially approved this project, which is expected to become the world's largest hydroelectric dam, bigger even than the famous Three Gorges Dam. The planned installed capacity is a massive 60,000 megawatts, or 60 gigawatts, nearly 3 times that of the Three Gorges. This site takes advantage of a 2,000-meter drop in elevation, allowing the dam to potentially generate up to 300 billion kilowatt hours of electricity annually. The project is located in Metog County, close to the Arunachal Pradesh border. Although China hasn't released detailed technical specs like dam height or reservoir size, officials have called it a national security project and a flagship of the 14th five-year plan. For India, this dam is a serious concern. It could give China the power to control how much water enters India through the Brahmaputra. Even the process of filling such a massive reservoir could temporarily...
Dude, that's literally basically giving the power to starve, kill, drown, dry out. That's all that...
reduce water flow downstream. India has already raised concerns and asked China to ensure that the interests of downstream countries are not harmed. China's upstream activities have already caused sudden floods in India. One such case happened in June of 2000, when a landslide in Tibet created a natural dam. When it burst, a huge wave of water flooded Arunachal Pradesh, killing at least 30 people and destroying villages. India received no advanced warning. A similar incident happened in 2018. Although these were natural disasters, the lack of timely information from China made the damage worse. Indian officials fear that if China ever decides to release water suddenly, especially during a conflict, the impact could be disastrous.
Yeah.
Apart from
Exactly what I
hydropower,
was saying.
China has also floated ideas to divert water
game
from
over.
the Brahmaputra to its drier northern regions. Plans like the Great Western Route under the South to North Water Transfer Project have suggested moving water hundreds of kilometers to the Yellow River. Started in 2002, this project meant to move water from the wetter south to the drier north. They are testing techniques that could be used to build the 1,000 kilometer or 621 mile long tunnels to take water from Tibet to Xinjiang. But it's not just the Brahmaputra that's worrying India. The Indus Basin also starts in Tibet, and China holds control over some headwaters of the Sutlej and Indus. In 2004, a landslide blocked the Barachu River and formed a lake by stopping the water
these
from flowing in
landslides,
Tibet,
man.
and threatened flash floods in Himachal Pradesh. Though it was handled, it showed again how much India relies on China's cooperation. India also keeps a close eye on Chinese activity on rivers flowing into Nepal or directly into India, like the Karnali and the
Look at
Subansiri.
this guy.
Each of these rivers could become a problem
Didn't
if
even
China
wanna
decides
shake
to
each
use
other's
water
hands.
as a tool in regional power politics. Another major concern is sediment flow. The Brahmaputra carries one of the highest amounts of sediment in the world. This silt is crucial for keeping the plains of Assam and Bangladesh fertile. When dams trap this sediment in the reservoirs, less reaches the farmlands. Scientists say this could lead to poorer soil quality, lower crop yields, and even changes in how the river behaves, like deeper channels that could worsen erosion. Clear water released from the dams has more energy to erode riverbanks. Over time, this could damage ecosystems and reduce fish populations.
I would
the
not feel safe
Brahmaputra
traveling
is home
over
to
that
many
dam.
fish species.
Like, can you imagine having to? Can you imagine you're driving on that dam and that thing just, just breaks? You're gone, dude. You've been sent to the shadow realm. Sorry, Jimbo. Looks like you're going to the shadow
And
realm.
damming the river can block their breeding paths. This not only hurts biodiversity, but also affects the millions who rely on fishing for food and income. The river supports about 6 million hectares of farmland in northeast India, growing rice, tea, jute, and pulses. Any changes in water flow,
rice gum?
less water in dry months, or sudden floods can mess up planting and harvesting cycles. Farmers may need to spend more on irrigation or suffer losses if crops are washed away. Fisheries also get hit when breeding cycles are disrupted. For local communities, this isn't just about money. The Brahma
I mean, yeah, you have to think about it. Most of these people's diets comes from what they're talking about right now. So if both of those things, has an issue, there's gonna be no tissue. It's gonna be game over, dude. Cryptocurrency.
Putra, known as Siang or Dihang in Arunachal, holds deep cultural meaning. Tribes like the Adi and the Assamese people consider the river sacred. From China's perspective, the biggest concern around water security usually comes from being downstream, meaning it worries more about how other countries upstream could affect its water supply. But when it comes to the Brahmaputra River, the situation flips. Here, China is actually upstream, yet it still worries about India's control. One major reason for this is territorial. China's claims on Arunachal Pradesh isn't just about history or culture. It's also deeply connected to securing control over the middle stretch of the Brahmaputra. Arunachal Pradesh, the northeastern
it's always
Indian
about
state
control
that
with
lies
China.
at the heart of the
That's the
Indian-China
thing.
border dispute,
Like, when it comes to dealing with China, it's never just about that thing. It's always about some other shadow motive that you're not aware of yet. Some backhanded motive, some sinister
plays a
plot.
key role in this. China calls it South Tibet and claims it as its own, even though it's been under Indian administration for decades. While China often cites historical and cultural links like the Tibetan heritage and the Tawang Monastery to justify its claims, there's a much bigger strategic reason: water. Arunachal Pradesh lies right where the Brahmaputra exits Tibet and flows into India. This region includes major tributaries and vital watershed areas in the eastern Himalayas. Controlling Arunachal means China could also control important water sources that are currently within India's borders. The Brahmaputra flows about 1,100
beefing with
kilometers
India
or
so much.
684 miles through Arunachal and Assam. Nearly 1/3 of the river's total catchment area lies within India. Importantly, the majority of the river's volume, especially during the monsoon, comes from rain that falls in Arunachal and Assam.
Monsoon,
According to a study,
monsoon.
only around 20% of the Brahmaputra's water at the point where it reaches Bangladesh originates in China. This means that most of the river's flow is actually created in Arunachal's valleys. If China ever controlled Arunachal, it would have the power to regulate or even divert much more of the Brahmaputra's water, though doing so would require massive infrastructure. As long as Arunachal remains under Indian control,
Dude, this is what I mean. This is why I feel like China right now is kind of like starting to crap the bed, because they're so worried about getting more and more power everywhere else that they can't even maintain instead of focusing on maintaining the power they already have. Their ambition, their own hubris will lead to their downfall.
India retains the advantage of controlling how the river flows out of the Himalayas and into the plains. China clearly understands the strategic value of this, especially as water security becomes more important for both countries. Beyond the Brahmaputra itself, Arunachal is filled with other large tributaries like the Siang, Subansiri, Lohit, and Kameng. Many of these rivers start just north of the border in Tibet and flow south through Arunachal into the Brahmaputra. This region has an enormous hydropower potential, around 50,000 megawatts, the highest of any Indian state. So far, only about 1,100 megawatts have been tapped, but several big projects are planned or underway already. One example is the 2,000 megawatt Lower Subansiri Dam. If China were to gain control of Arunachal, it could harness these energy resources for its own needs and cut off India's access.
I don't know, it's kind of funny. Obviously, I know it's not funny, but I think it's funny, the way that he's mentioned, the way that he's saying things, because it makes it sound like if China, gets all the Infinity Stones, it's fucked. He's making it seem like China's just, collecting.
For China,
Infinity
having
Stones.
control over these upstream rivers would be a major strategic gain, giving it leverage over millions of people downstream in both India and Bangladesh. That's why some Chinese voices bring up water resources when discussing the importance of southern Tibet. The interest is not just about land, it's also about dominating the entire Brahmaputra basin. But China's push for Arunachal Pradesh hides another key motive. The state, which is roughly the size of Austria, acts as a natural mountain barrier between Tibet and India's densely populated Brahmaputra Valley. If China were to control this area, it would move the border further south into the plains, giving Chinese forces a major geographic advantage. Some Chinese strategists believe this would be a more secure and defendable border along the foothills, instead of currently high up in the mountainous terrains. The Tawang region is particularly very important to China. Culturally, it matters because of the Tawang Monastery, which is significant in Tibetan Buddhism. Geographically, it lies near Bhutan and close to India's narrow Siliguri corridor, the only land link between mainland India and the northeast. Although China officially talks about historical ties and ethnic links to justify its claim on Arunachal, many experts believe that water resources and strategic location are the real drivers. By pressing its claims on Arunachal, China puts constant pressure on India in the northeast, complicating Indian plans to develop dams or strengthen infrastructure in that region. After the Ladakh clashes in 2020, China even began renaming rivers and mountains in Arunachal in Mandarin, signaling its intention to claim these areas as a part of China. This move seemed to coincide with China's growing focus on projects in the Brahmaputra basin, as if to say these rivers historically belong to China, even if they currently lie across the border. Since 2017, China has also launched a major program to build what it calls Xiaokang, or moderately prosperous villages across its border with India. Between 2018 and 2022, China reportedly built 624 new villages in Tibet, many of them right along the eastern border facing Arunachal. While these are presented as civilian settlements, many include military or dual-use infrastructure. This is part of China's strategy to strengthen its hold on disputed areas without resorting to open conflict. For example, in the village of Yarao, located about 26 kilometers from the line of actual control, China added 65 new buildings and 2 helipads within a few months in 2022, on top of 30 existing structures. By late 2023, in areas like the Nagdo Bowl, just 3.5 kilometers or 2.17 miles from Arunachal's Tawang sector, dozens of new buildings have appeared where only one existed in 2017. Similar is the case with 2 other villages. YouTube just dropped a mind-boggling announcement. It is paying creators $64 million per day. There's on your homepage everyone.
Like this is Halo Wars or something.
For your subscription, Zoom call, military infrastructure villages, which are just a few miles away from the Indian border. These developments align with
resources
China's
available,
2021
just
Land
popping up more
Borders Law,
structures.
which encourages the construction of
Helipad,
civilian
25
infrastructure
points.
in border areas and the settlement of people who are expected to defend these areas as part of a mass defense force. This cunning strategy is known as military-civil fusion, to settle civilians in remote areas under the protection of its military. At first glance, this might seem like a simple move, but China knows exactly what it means. By creating such infrastructure, China creates a permanent Chinese presence in disputed areas, helping to enforce its claims simply by being there. Alongside this, China has become more aggressive with its border patrols near Arunachal. Indian officials report frequent transgressions by the PLA, which happen due to both countries having different views of where the actual border lies. In December of 2022, for instance, around 300 Chinese troops carrying nail-studded clubs clashed with Indian soldiers in the
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we covered this, but yeah, I've seen the videos of this, and I've also seen like the videos like talking about it too, like that. Oh man, I mean, but honestly though, I'd rather it be this than full-scale war. You know, people just start shooting each other, starting a whole war for like actual like nonsense.
Yangtze area of Tawang. The fight, which took place at 15,000 feet, left dozens on both sides injured, making it the most serious Eastern Sector clash since the 1962 war. Such face-offs have been happening regularly, in 2016, 2021, and again in 2022, as China tests India's patrol limits. These actions are part of what's known as the salami slicing strategy, where small, repeated moves slowly change the situation on the ground in China's favor.
Guy, yo, boss, my man said the we're not just gonna skip over that. My man said the salami slicer. Hey, yo.
It even seems that China has been preparing for a war. But why do I say this? Because a surface-to-air missile base has been built on a nearby ridge, allowing China to monitor and potentially control airspace deep into Indian territory. In June of 2021, China also launched the Lhasa-Ningqi high-speed rail line, bringing fast train access close to the Arunachal border. A terminal station on the opposite side of the Brahmaputra River connects directly to Nyangchi Airport by road. Moreover, China finished building a new highway and tunnel system between Nyangchi and Meidang, across the border from Arunachal in 2021, cutting travel time by 8 hours and reducing the distance from 215 to 112 miles. Meidang, once extremely remote, is now accessible year-round from PLA logistics hubs. Also, China's Western Theater Command has reorganized its forces for mountain warfare. In Tibet, it has deployed light brigades like the 52nd and 53rd equipped with air mobile units and mountain artillery. It also has stationed modern military hardware in Tibet,
just alone
including
this month,
Z-20
I've
helicopters,
heard the word China so many
PCL-181
times,
artillery
it's
systems,
funny.
and HQ-17 air defense systems. But what is India doing to counter China? India, aware of this, has been boosting its
Yeah, that's a pretty good question because we've seen already India countering Pakistan in a lot of different ways, so I want to see how they counter China.
own military strength in the region. The Eastern Command, based in Shillong, leads army operations in the area. To strengthen offensive capabilities, India raised a new formation, the 17 Mountain Strike Corps. Though it faced delays due to funding, this corps is now partially active, with 2 mountain divisions ready to strike if needed. The Air Force also has forward deployed assets. Apart from Tezpur, Su-30 MKIs equipped with BrahMos missiles now operate in the region. Since 2022, even Rafale fighter jets have started flying missions in the eastern sector from their base in Hasimara, West Bengal. As a result, both countries now have around 50 to 60,000 troops, each stationed along the eastern sector of the line of actual control. These troops are supported by light tanks, infantry combat vehicles, and artillery deployed in key valleys. China has been increasing its activities and making stronger claims over Arunachal Pradesh, but India has been quick to respond with a smart and multi-layered strategy. To ensure the region remains safe and secure, India has taken several important steps. One major move has been strengthening its military presence in the eastern sector, which covers Arunachal. Over the past few years, India has deployed more troops, set up new military bases, and brought in advanced equipment to stay ready for any situation. Alongside military efforts, India is also focusing heavily on building infrastructure in the region. With the goal of matching China brick for brick, roads, bridges, tunnels, and airstrips are being developed rapidly to improve connectivity and boost movement along the border areas. This not only helps the military, but also supports local communities and brings economic growth to the region. On the diplomatic front, India continues to engage China through official talks, while also strengthening ties with other global partners to ensure broader support. Planning for emergencies and working on joint operations is also part of India's long-term strategy to be prepared for any kind of challenge. In short, India is taking a strong stand, militarily, economically, and diplomatically, to secure Arunachal Pradesh and reinforce its status.
You can't let people bully you. You have to stand up. You know, you have to like fight. Especially when you're going up against somebody like China, dude. You can't let them keep swindling you. Because if you keep letting them swindle you, you're just going to be playing you're literally going to be stuck playing tiddlywinks outside while everybody's inside, you know, playing on nice computers. Do you want to be the guy, you know, stuck outside playing tiddlywinks? I think not.
This as an integral part of the country. But where this tussle will go is something only time will tell.
The tussle
Thanks
with
for
the
watching.
tussle. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching as well. Make sure to leave a like and comment on both of their videos. But I'll leave a link to their stuff too. And also make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe on my video if you can. And make sure to check out the Twitch. We're always streaming live. Hope you guys like this stuff. You know, just trying to spread you know, the awareness. Make sure everybody's knows what's going on, really. So then if shit does hit the fan, you know, people aren't just confused. Oh man. Anyways, this video's been long enough. I'll catch you guys in the next